What is Dragonlance? GameMasters here, and Dragonlance goes way back to the 1980s and was actually created by Laura and Tracy Hickman, as well as Margaret Weis, as their own alternate setting to Forgotten Realms. They later wrote the series of novels detailing those adventures. Yeah, Dragonlance started out as a massive adventure, a campaign, and was run by friends and family, and it bloomed into a massive setting that was published within the Dungeons & Dragons franchise. Turning those adventures into novels helped to solidify Dragonlance into among one of the more popular and well-known settings that has ever existed, and it makes perfect sense that Wizards of the Coast is now set to publish Dragonlance for 5th edition. Krynn is the name of the world, the planet, and some of you may recognize the term Krynn space from Spelljammer. Well, that's the world where the setting of Dragonlance takes place. Krynn's early beginning, known as the Age of Starbirth, many will say that this portion of Krynn's history is lost to time, but we know that Paladine, you know him as Fizban from Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, had a hand in Krynn's creation, forging it out of primordial chaos. The Age of Dreams follows, in which mortals slowly come to power. Two of the factions that players will encounter in Dragonlance originated during this age, the Knights of Solamnia and the Mages of High Sorcery. The Age of Dreams lasts for about 8,000 years until the Third Dragon War began, in which a famed Dragonlance, an artifact with the power to harm even a god, was passed to the knight Huma Dragonbane. Actually, several of them were, and he used those Dragonlances along with help from Knights of Solamnia to wound the Dragon Queen, a god, Takhisis. With mortals being able to wield a power to wound a god, Takhisis was banished, along with her evil dragon followers. With the evil dragons that worship Takhisis and Takhisis herself no longer residing on Krynn, civilization flourished, and the world entered what is known as the Age of Might. The Age of Might would last only about 1,000 years, as mankind strove to find power, both raw and wicked, hidden in far reaches of Krynn, as they craved to rule. As they progressed across the lands in search of treasure and power, evil would reach out from the shadows and corrupt those that sought out shortcuts to rule or failed to understand the ramifications of using long-lost powerful artifacts. The Knights of Solamnia, once considered a power for good, expanded their army and military prowess, even allowing the city of Istar to grow from a small little coastal town to an empire that spanned the continent. Because of the army of knights, the ability to vanquish evil became easy, and I'm talking they got to a point where they even wanted to control what citizens could think, feeling that if people didn't think evil thoughts, then evil could always remain abated. The problem is, this spawned a king priest by the name of Beldina that even demanded that mages cease casting, that clerics cease using their clerical powers. The Age of Thumbs Up was not an age in Dragonlance, but is the time where the video where I ask that if you're enjoying it, please consider giving it a thumbs up. It helps that YouTube algorithm to spread it out to more eyes, and you'll have my eternal thanks. Seeing corruption growing from these acts set forth by the King Priest, the gods of Krynn finally stepped in and tossed a massive meteor down upon the city of Istar. Some claim it was a burning mountain. Regardless, a massive rock from space slammed into Krynn and changed it forever, transforming the mountains to plains, forming new oceans, wiping out entire cities and populations. The landscape was scarred and forever changed. This was known as the Cataclysm, and Krynn became a place of total ruin, thrusting it into what is known as the Time of Darkness or the Age of Despair. Mass famine and plagues swept across the broken terrain, and many races ceased providing help and home to wanderers seeking shelter. Evil didn't creep out of the shadows. Evil was thrust into the light, and factions warred with each other in efforts just to stay alive. Supplies and food were the commodity, and the price was paid in blood. The Knights of Solamnia were now seen as dishonored. They were seen as the ones that helped to usher in the Cataclysm, and hope seemed to have been snuffed out. The Age of Darkness spans almost 400 years, and the population has only begun to dig out of being ravaged and broken. Scars from the Cataclysm are still ever present, but the actual events are now just tales passed down verbally. Some trade routes have opened up, and elves, dwarves, humans, and other races have recognized the need to work together to rebuild. Evil, however, now persists throughout the world of Krynn. The Dragon Queen Takhisis seeks to return, and what's more, there is a threat from a group known as the Five Dragon Armies that is growing in power, as they promise glory and wealth, something unseen since before the Cataclysm. But even as they promise to have a light at the end of the tunnel, some fear that the Dragon Queen Takhisis pulls the strings behind the Five Dragon Armies, which is exactly what's happening. And it is the sweeping Five Dragon Army that sparks what is known as the War of the Lance. And it is during this war that Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen, takes place. For sake of making a 92-hour video, I glossed over a few elements of Krynn's history, but what we just talked about should cover the basics of what Dragonlance is. How excited are you for this new Dragonlance book made for 5th edition for Dungeons & Dragons? What are some things you're expecting to see inside? What would disappoint you to not see included? Let me know down in the comments, and if you want to see more things that we release about Dragonlance 5th edition, be sure to bookmark this playlist. It's only going to grow as we add more to it. Dragonlance has been a long time coming for 5th edition, and I'd love to know what you think. Let's chat down in the comments, and until next your paths cross, may you win that battle against Death Knight Soth.